Information should not be sold. This documentary was created to help provide you with overwhelming amounts of evidence of murder and cover-ups of these criminal activities on one video source. The choice is up to you, whether you choose to believe the facts presented to you. Equally, the choice is yours to do something about it.
Where do you think things are going to be in the next 2 years?
Well, either Americans are going to wake up and they're going to stand up in unison and take up arms and challenge the federal government to step back within the boundaries of the Constitution, or there's going to be a civil war in this country. The only alternative to that is total enslavement of the entire human race on a global scale. Because that's where this is going. This is all about a one-world totalitarian socialist government. It's about destroying all existing nation-states, destroying all existing religions, save the religion of those who are bringing this about, which is the secular, humanist, socialist religion.
That way you can devalue human life and kill people.
Well, they're already doing that.
Yes, they are.
And they've already convinced the American people that it's okay. The people whose ancestors came to the New World to escape religious persecution in the Old World stood and watched the Branch Davidians burn, including all of their children, all of their women, and they cheered and said that it was because they were a bunch of religious fanatics.
I remember the shots ringing out, and even though the president was being hit with the rounds, I was considering a miss because I knew that we were going for a headshot on the president.
And suddenly, the whole top of the president's head sprays into the air in this big pink mist going forward, which to me indicates that the bullet came from behind, regardless of where the body went. The spray goes forward.
Shall we take a look for ourselves? He sure does look nervous. Notice the bullet that killed Kennedy from behind. Something just doesn't look right here.
This is the guilt that doesn't belong to a few. This is the guilt of the nation. We're all responsible. This could only be the act of a deranged mind.
There is no question whatsoever in my mind that every possible security precaution was taken.
All possible security precautions were taken by our police force on their own.
I don't want to point my finger at anyone in a case like this.
That's us, human beings, interesting folks, murderers. Here's an interesting form of murder we come up with. Assassination. You know what's interesting about assassination? Well, not only does it change those popularity polls in a big fucking hurry, but it's also interesting to notice who it is we assassinate. Did you ever notice who it is? Stop to think of who it is we kill. It's always people who've told us to live together in harmony and try to love one another. Jesus, Gandhi, Lincoln, John Kennedy, Bobby Kennedy, Martin Luther King, Medgar Evers, Malcolm X, John Lennon. They all said, try to live together peacefully. Bam! Right in the fucking head.
For years, a shadow government has been murdering people using covert and secret intelligence agencies to help disguise the truth of their crimes, tampering and even destroying evidence to assist in covering the trail of what really happened. This is most probably the main reason for these organizations to exist and receive funding in the first place. Without physically seeing any paperwork as to where our tax dollars are being spent, how can we be so sure that the money we contribute in a so-called democracy is not in turn actually funding and aiding in wars, murder, assassinations, and misleading investigations or news stories that shape the world we live in today? Most people, when asked about the assassination of John F. Kennedy, cannot state a culprit, or still are convinced that it was a lone lunatic by the name of Lee Harvey Oswald. The documentary you are about to watch is an attempt to finally bring light as to what really happened during several of history's greatest public deceptions and cover-ups. Overwhelming evidence of murder at the hands of our government in which so many of us put our trust in and support with tax-paying dollars. This documentary will prove that the word govern and the word mental, when combined, is exactly just that, It should not take you long to discover that the literal definition of the word government is out in the open for us to realize its actual meaning, yet many of us are blind to see it even though it's right in front of our eyes. To govern our lives by numerous methods of mind control, to govern our mental. And yet many of these murders are still unsolved, or falsely presumed proven, and closed only by means of corruption and abuse of political power. Now let there be truth.
I used to cry big alligator tears for them in their ignorance, and I used to do everything I could to wake them up. I've drawn my line in the sand, and I'm going to do what's right by God, and I don't give a damn who cares or who likes it or who doesn't, even if it means I have to die on my doorstep.
One of the things that makes everybody wonder why Bill's life was snuffed out in 2001 was because in June of that year, Osama bin Laden, who was a relative unknown at that time, Bill had been following the news and found a lot of curiosities and went on the air predicting that there would be a major attack in the United States and that it would be blamed on Osama bin Laden, but he was literally the scapegoat that was being used, not truly behind the attacks. So that, I mean, just a few months before the events of September 11th, and then of course Bill's life cut short shortly thereafter.
Supposedly, a CNN reporter found Osama bin Laden, took a television camera crew with him, went into Osama bin Laden's hideout, interviewed him and his top leadership, and he came out and told everybody, within 3 weeks, Osama bin Laden is going to attack the United States and Israel. Now, don't you think that's kind of strange, folks? You see, because the largest intelligence apparatus in the world, with the biggest budget in the history of the world, has been looking for Osama bin Laden for years and years and years, and can't find him. Some doofus jerk-off reporter with a camera crew waltzes right into his hideout and interviews him. And I'm telling you, be prepared for a major attack. But it won't be Osama bin Laden. It will be those behind the New World Order. I wonder what Osama bin Laden's targets are supposed to be. And if they don't, if this doesn't materialize in the next 2 or 3 weeks, it will eventually materialize.
Article 33. Repeatedly ignored and failed to respond to high-level intelligence warnings of planned terrorist attacks in the United States prior to 9/11. In his conduct while President of the United States, George W. Bush, in violation of his constitutional oath to faithfully execute the office of President of the United States, and to the best of his ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States, and in violation of his constitutional duty under Article 2, Section 3 of the Constitution, to take care that the laws be faithfully executed, has both personally and acting through his agents and subordinates, together with the Vice President, failed in his constitutional duties to take proper steps to protect the nation prior to September 11th.
Bill Cooper's correct prediction of the 9/11 attacks on the World Trade Center was not the only reason he was killed under curious circumstances at his home in November of 2001. His book, entitled Behold a Pale Horse, is one of the best-selling underground books, which outlines in great detail the agenda of the New World Order and its secret societies and law agencies. It is strongly recommended by many conspiracy theorists and includes documentation and personal notes of his own research into the corruption and direction he saw our world heading. Many of Will Cooper's predictions came true.
This title is from the book of Revelations, because I have to tell you this, and you may think I'm nuts if you want to, but this is the truth. Either these men are following the book of Revelation, the book of Revelation as it is in the Bible. Mm-hmm. They're either following it just like a plan and bringing the prophecies in there to pass to manipulate and control those who believe in those prophecies and neutralize them, so to speak. In other words, if this is written in the Bible and God has ordained it, who am I to resist? It must come to pass, so I'm not going to try to stop it.
Okay.
What a perfect way to neutralize the opposition right off the bat. Or there really is a God, and what he said was going to come to pass is coming to pass. And I named this, Behold a Pale Horse, from chapter 13 of the book of Revelations. The fourth horse, the fourth horseman of the apocalypse is the pale horse. And I looked, and behold a pale horse, and his name that sat upon him was Death. And hell followed with him, and power was given unto them over the fourth part of the earth, to kill with sword, and with hunger, and with the beasts of the earth. And that is taking place now today. The fourth horseman is riding across the world now. That's what AIDS is all about. That's what all these little brush fire wars all over the world are all about. That's what's happening. That's why cancer cures are suppressed.
In 1961, William Cooper enlisted in the U.S. Air Force after graduating from Yamato High School in Japan. In 1965, Cooper was honorably discharged and later that same year enlisted in the U.S. Navy, serving in Vietnam and rising to gain a position in Navy security and intelligence. It was here that he apparently first started learning of top-secret government and military operations, which he later wrote about in his 1991 book.
A lot of it is really hard to talk about because it's so far outside the normal concept of reality for the average American that they're going to find a hard time believing any of it. Mm-hmm. But I saw documents that were labeled under the classification top secret, and the compartmentalized, or the compartment that was put into was called MAJIC, M-A-J-I-C, which told me that UFOs are real, which I already knew. I'd seen one.
Right.
But this went farther than that. It told me that they were extraterrestrial in origin, that there were 4 different extraterrestrial species or races visiting this earth, and that they had actually entered into an agreement with the United States government with one of these species of alien beings to exchange technology, and it told me all the projects that was underneath this.
While working for Navy intelligence on a briefing team for Sinpak Fleet, Cooper had apparently viewed documents that admitted that John F. Kennedy was assassinated by those in his own government and not by Lee Harvey Oswald. It was because of this information, as well as other sensitive materials, Cooper decided to leave the Navy in 1975 and began him on a quest to teach of truth and freedom which lasted for over 30 years.